Hi, so I'm going to explain the eyeball today. So, chapter 8 is about the senses, and specifically, we're going to talk about eye and vision today. So, there's external structures and then the muscles and everything that entails. So, the eye has things called accessory organs. So, they're not like the eye itself, but they accessorize like jewelry. So, the eyelid, obviously, I'm sure you've had your eyes shut and you can see the light come through because it's made of the thinnest skin in the body. It's super thin. Your eyelid is moved by your orbicularis oculi. Do you remember when we talked about that? The circular muscle, orbicularis oculi. It contains the conjunctiva. The conjunctiva is this mucous membrane that lines the inner surface. So it's right here. And if you have conjunctivitis, remember when you put itis at the end of the word, it means inflammation of whatever that word was. So conjunctivitis is inflammation of your conjunctiva, and that's also called pink eye. So if you have like appendicitis, it's inflammation of your appendix. Tonsillitis, inflammation of your tonsils. So that's super helpful. All right, so let's talk about the lacrimal gland. They secrete tears. They're up here, and they secrete tears into your eye. After the tears are secreted, they're collected to ducts that exit in the nose. Have you ever cried and all of a sudden you have to blow your nose? You're like, what? That's because of the fact that that's where it drains. So you can kind of see it here. So lacrimal gland goes into your eyeball, drains into your nose. Your tears are super helpful if you've ever gotten something in your eye and somebody says, just blink, 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 blink lots of times to flush it out. Your tears moisten your eye, prevent it from drying out. They lubricate the surface of the eye and eyelids so they don't stick. They also serve as an antibacterial agent to prevent eye infections. Think about how many times you touch your eye and how many times you actually get pink eye. So it's super helpful that they have that antibacterial agent in them because you don't get pink eye every time you touch your eye. You also have these muscles that attach to your eye. They're called extrinsic muscles. There's 6 of them, and that's what helps you to roll your eyes at your parents when you're mad at them. Yes, they are voluntary, so they're skeletal muscles. Well, if you want to, they're superior, that means on top of. Oblique and rectus, remember rectus means straight up and down, and oblique means diagonal. And then you have inferior oblique, and then medial, remember, means toward the midline, and lateral means on the outside. So the lateral rectus would be on the outside, medial would be the inside back, inferior would be below, and superior would be above. Those are your extrinsic muscles. There's 3 layers of your eyeball: fibrous, vascular, and sensory. So the fibrous layer, that would be the front. The cornea, which is clear. This is your cornea right here. That's the window of the eye that helps focus entering light rays. It's made of connective tissue, which is a very thin layer of epithelial tissue on its surface. And if you remember, epithelial tissue does not have blood vessels. It's avascular. What would happen if you had blood vessels in your cornea? What color is blood? Is it transparent? Would you be able to see through it? No. So your cornea needs to be clear and avascular. It has to get its nourishment elsewhere than from blood because of the fact that you wouldn't be able to see, and that would not go over well. So, and I told you that already. The fibrous layer has the sclera. That's the whites of your eyes. So if you ever see anyone, we learned, because I'm older, that there's that one war, and they said, don't shoot them till you see the whites of their eyes. So I just asked my students, don't shoot them till you see the sclera, is what he should have said. And then a history teacher told me they don't teach that anymore, because I guess he never said that. So, oops. But the sclera is the white portion of the eye, and that's continuous with the cornea. It's made of large collagen and elastic fibers. It protects the eyes, and that's where the extrinsic muscles that I just showed you attach to, which you can see. And it goes all the way around. Okay, that's the fibrous layer. The vascular layer, here's your choroid, you could see here. That's the blood-rich, nutritious tunic that contains a dark pigment. That pigment prevents the light from scattering. So when it comes in as all crazy-like, it helps it to stay in place. And then you have the ciliary body that extends from the choroid and forms an internal ring around the front of the eye. So this is the vascular layer. It also has the iris. Right here is the iris. That's the color. So what color is your iris? Do you know? Might need a mirror. Everybody's iris can be a different color. The pupil is black. And here's the white of the eye, the sclera. So what happens is the iris is the smooth muscle fiber, so it's involuntary. So it contracts and makes the pupil get smaller when it's really, really bright. If you've ever gone to a movie theater and then it gets really, like, it increases the size of the pupil. Have you ever seen that? Your pupil gets ginormous in a movie theater, and then you go outside in the summer and you're like, oh, my eyes, I can't. Well, then your pupil gets really, really, really small. If you're like, no, I've never been to a movie, well, then hold a flashlight like near your eye. Don't like blind yourself. Okay, have a mirror right here. Okay, look at the size of your pupil, and then move the flashlight away, and then look at the size of your pupil. They'll change sizes. It depended upon how much light is available. So your pupil is the black part. So the iris either gets bigger or smaller, and therefore the pupil gets bigger or smaller. Right, the inside is the sensory layer. You have the retina. I show this video in class and goes, the retina, and it's awesome. That's the rods and cones. So the retina contains the photoreceptors, which are rods and cones. It also has the optic disc. That's the place on the retina where the nerve fibers leave the eye. So that's known as your blind spot. You'll do some activities, or if you've ever done this, and then all of a sudden your hand disappears, or a piece of paper, you're supposed to hold a piece of paper with a dot on it, and you hold it, and you're like, where's my blind spot? There's a specific spot where it disappears. That is because there's no sensory receptors on your optic disc. That's your blind spot. So if you are lucky enough to dissect an eye in class, this is what you might see. Most of these are chopped off, but this is the optic nerve. It is pretty large, which is awesome. That goes directly to your brain to help you to process your images. And then here is the eyeball. All right, so cornea, clear part. Lens is right here. We haven't talked about that yet. And then here's like the optic disc, the blind spot, and the retina's in the back. And then that's where the optic nerve would lead from. It leads, it's the nerve located in the back of the eye, transmits signals to the optic cortex, which is in the back of your brain, which deals with vision. Right, that lens, remember I said we haven't talked about this yet, the lens gets thinner or thicker depending upon what you're looking at. So the lens is the divider. So in front of the lens is called the aqueous segment. So if you do get to dissect the eye, if not, you can Google cow eye dissection. There's a 4-minute video. And so when you cut that open, there's literally looks like clear jello that's in the front of your lens. And that's what nourishes the cornea and the lens. And then behind the lens is the vitreous humor. And that is also, this aqueous is liquid. I meant to say it's liquid because you have to be able to see through it. And the vitreous humor is the gel-like substance. It kind of gives support to the eye, and it prevents it from like collapsing inward. So it's like a jelly-like substance behind, so posterior to the lens. All right, so how does the light go through? The lens is held in place by suspensory ligaments. So you can see the cornea is right here. That's transparent. The aqueous humor, here's the cornea right here, sorry. And then the aqueous humor is right here. That's that liquid that nourishes the cornea as well as nourishes the lens. Here's the iris. Here's the ciliary body that kind of connects to everything. And then you have the retina in the back. This would be the jelly-like substance, the vitreous humor. And here's the optic nerve. So if the ciliary muscles are contracted, they move downward, like this way. This lessens the pressure on the suspensory ligaments, and they become relaxed, and the lens gets thicker. So if you think of Play-Doh, so you had the lens all stretched out, and then they do this, right? Okay? So you had it like this, and they do it like this here. I'm going to show you. So here's my lens, okay? Here is my ciliary body. And it says they're contracted, they move downward, so my lens is going to get thicker, right? That's good for seeing objects up close. So if I want to read this, my lens is getting thicker, right? The ciliary muscles relax, the suspensory ligaments become taut, the lens stretches and becomes thin. This is good for seeing objects far away. And the ability to do this, thick, thin, is called accommodation, because your lens is accommodating to the object that's far away or close up. Right, this is just, you can see how the light comes in and it hits on the retina on the back. When you see something, it's either giving off light or it's reflecting light. So these light waves enter the eye and the image of the object is focused on the retina, and that's called refraction. It is upside down, which you've heard, I'm sure, since elementary school. And it's reversed from left to right. The brain must interpret that correct position of the object. We'll do some optical illusions where you can kind of see how that works, and it's pretty cool. So here's a rod, and here's a cone. Rods kind of are tall and rod-like. They look like a rod. A cone looks like a cone. So those are called photoreceptors. Photo means light, and receptors, they receive the light, right? Okay, rods look like this, I already said that, and cones look like that. Rods are sensitive to light, so they are what allows you to see in that dark movie theater when all the lights are off. They allow you to see the different shades of gray and the different images and whatnot. Cones color, it rhymes. Cones see colors. They allow you to see the color once you get out of the movie theater. Now you can see everything in color. So rods produce colorless vision. So if there's any animal out there that's colorblind, they don't see in color, they probably don't have cones. They probably only have rods. Doesn't that make sense? So rods see like the different grays, and they see in dim light. Cones see color. Cones provide sharp images. Rod provide general outlines. That's because the nerve fibers from many rods converge, and their impulses are transmitted to the brain on the same fiber. So like think of this being the fiber, and these are several different rods. They all share the same nerve fiber. The point of light that stimulates a rod, so the one that stimulates this one to send the impulse to this nerve fiber, it can't tell which one of the five. It was my first finger, but this nerve can't figure that out. Whereas cones would be completely separate, okay? They would each have their own nerve fiber. I don't know if I can show you on my fingers. So they don't share, if that makes sense. All right, these are all the parts of the eye you have to know. So what we have right here is the cornea. That is the clear part of the eye, the front. When you put your contact in, that is what you are touching. Posterior to the cornea, behind it, you have this fluid right here. It's a liquid. It's called the aqueous humor, because aqua, isn't that water in Spanish or something? So aqueous humor. Okay, so this space here is where the pupil would be. Here's the lens. This is the iris, right? The iris changes shape to make the pupil get bigger and dim, smaller, and really bright areas. Here's the ciliary body, which connects to the suspensory ligaments. That causes the lens. The ciliary body contracts, causes the suspensory ligaments to get big when it's far away. And then the suspensory, I can't say the word right now, ligaments, and then the lens gets short and fat when they're close up. Here's the choroid and the retina, and then your optic nerve leads to the posterior part of your brain. And here's the vitreous body. We know it as vitreous humor. That's the jelly-like substance that helps to support the lens and keep it in there. Right, so what happens if you're farsighted and nearsighted? Myopia is called nearsighted. Your eyeball is too long. So if you're that's what means you're nearsighted. Images are formed directly on the retina, creating good vision in a normal eye. It looks like this. Well, images are formed in front of the retina, so now it's very blurry vision at a distance. You are nearsighted because you can see objects close up. Like, oh, I can read this. Parent-teacher conferences, la, 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 la. I'm fine, right? But back there, I'm like, oh, stop sign. I can't see it because my eyeball's too long, right? That's nearsighted. I can see near up. It's called myopia. N and M are really close in the alphabet. Myopia, nearsighted. So you can see near. Hyperopia, see F and H are close to each other in the alphabet. Hyperopia is farsighted. So what happens here, your eyeball's too short. So look at it, the focal point's way back here. Normal eye, remember, focal point on the retina. A hyperopia, farsighted. So you can see far away, but up close you're like, oh, ouch. Are you okay? Just checking. You okay? So have you ever seen people do this? I can't see it. I forgot my cheaters, or whatever, where they sell those cheaters. I don't have a concussion, I promise. So if you can't see it, read close up. You're farsighted. You can see far away, but not close up. So then, to read, you need glasses. That's hyperopia. Okay, if you have astigmatism, that's your regular curvature of the eyes, just not shaped the right way. And presbyopia, that's the eye loses elasticity with age. So that just happens if you get older. Remember last chapter we talked about your arteries can thicken and harden if you get older. Your eyeballs can lose elasticity if you get older, which is why it's more common for people who are older to have glasses than people in elementary school. So the cornea still lets light pass. The lens could harden, so it can't change its elasticity. Close objects are no longer focused. So that's what. See, I didn't hit my head that time. I learned. Look at me. So then that focus is behind the retina. Muscles can't change the shape of the lens because it's hardened. The end. Boom. Let me know if you have questions. Hope you learned a lot about your eye.